So you are the marketing director for Embody, I believe. Is that correct? Awesome.
I am. That's right.
So could you tell us just a little bit about yourself, Ira, and then a little bit about the history of Embody, how you guys got started, and kind of what your mission statement is? Give us the intro.
Yeah, so I'm been with Embody for 3 years. I knew Koppel, our CEO, and I know Greg before. We used to work at a company called Marvell, and I got to know Koppel because he came over to Japan one time, and he comes. I was the country manager. He comes into the office, and he's sitting in one of the booths, and I didn't know one of the cubes. I didn't know who he was. I just said, introduced myself. I said, "Hey, I'm Ira." And he said, "Hey, I'm Koppel." I'm like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Well, I've got this audio DSP that I want to get into Nintendo and Sony." And that's how it started. We sat down. I was very fascinated because Koppel's a guy who, even though we were working in semiconductor, he was very focused on always system level use cases and end user. And in semiconductor, that's unique. A lot of times, semiconductor people get focused just on the chip and what it's got to connect to, and some lower level software. But Koppel was like, well, I'm going to take this Nintendo controller, I'm going to put my DSP in there, and then we're going to have the actual game. We're going to game with it. And what it was doing was making the audio sound better from your microphone. So if you're talking to, you're gaming and you're talking to your friends, Koppel solution was going to make the audio sound better. And I said, wow, this guy's got a great approach. I love his energy. He's very focused on, again, use cases and end user experience. And I just took a liking to him, became good friends. And then several years later, he's like, hey, he left Marvell, and he's like, hey, I'm going to do this startup called Embody, and I want you to join. I'm like, that's great, but what does it do? And my wife was pregnant at the time, and I was like, I'm not sure if we want to take a risk on a startup, and my wife's pregnant, but he was, what we did is we said, okay, we will, I set up some meetings for him, and he came over to Japan, and it was very impressive what happened. He came over with this very simple demo, and what it was just he just waved. It was a leap controller. You wave your hand over it, and you can move the sound around your body, around your head. And we had simple tracks like walking in the snow, and there's a few like a race car or something. And I sat in meetings with people like Sony and Panasonic, and every demo we did, the engineers were very impressed, to the point where it was emotionally impressed. And in Japan, I've been there 20 years.
Yeah,
that's rare for an engineer to have an emotional reaction to a technology. Just because there's not a Japanese character to be to emote that way. And so I was like, okay, this is something special. I should really give this deep thought, and I did. And that's a little bit about how I got into Embody, and my background there. Embody as a company, though, it started. I joined 3 years ago. It started probably 4 years ago, and what was going on was the visual for gaming had advanced in so many ways, right? And it's stunning, and the visual immersion, the tools that are available for designers for games, and from console standpoint, and also what's going on from PC, the technology advanced to the point where it is just stunning graphics and visuals for you. The audio, though, hadn't advanced, but it was at a cusp. The gaming companies have made a big bet on immersion, and the last piece is audio. And there's a long-standing problem, which is immersive audio requires personalization. And everybody understood that. Koppel decided to really go after this problem. He's a passionate gamer himself, and he started looking at this. How can we have personalization? So everybody knew that this is what was needed, but what was missing was the compute power to do it. Also, it's a very complex problem, which has been, acoustic engineers have tried to solve it for many years. And by the way I solve it is, you can go to semi-anechoic chamber. You can sit there and get your personalized HRTF, you get your HRTF measured, but it doesn't scale. It's expensive. There's not a lot of chambers all over the world to just pop in and say, please measure my HRTF. So you've got to have some way of millions of people being able to capture an HRTF. And that's the problem that Koppel went off and solved. Again, he's got an acoustic background. He got connected to Trudy, our co-founder, and she is, machine learning data science background from PhD from, I think it's Cambridge exactly. And so combining those two, acoustic engineering, data science, machine learning, and they were able to come up with a solution to solve the problem. And that's the genesis of Embody. And another key factor there was the algorithms, AI algorithms had advanced to the point where they were sophisticated enough to tackle this challenge. And also compute power came down significantly. And because of those things coming together, a problem was able to be solved, and Embody was born.
Thank you. That's really good, interesting information. There's not a lot of companies doing. I mean, there's companies out there that are doing spatial audio, but I don't know actually of any companies specifically doing what you guys are kind of trying to tackle, this specific kind of HRTF problem and spatializing around that. That's actually very, I think a lot of engineers I've talked to are sort of like, whoa, that's scary. That's a lot of complicated moving parts, right? And you're totally right. I've actually had an HRTF made before, and it was, I mean, it was through a school program that I was doing, but it's quite expensive. It is quite expensive typically, and there's all these microphones and special chambers. And I was amazed actually the first time I used your guys' software. I was kind of skeptical, but it worked far better than I actually would have expected. So that's actually kind of brings me to my next question, which is, how did you envision, because it seems like you have sort of two main uses for the software. There's obviously the pro side with Reveal Plus and with Immerse Virtual Studio, and kind of using that to create a sort of mixing and mastering environment. And then there's also a gaming side of what you do. Can you talk about how those both developed and the differences between those two, if you approach them at all differently?
Yes. So like a lot of startups, things evolve, right? And so, but I'm going to step back and just come back to basics. If I understand how you hear, which means if I can make a model of how you hear, which is what a personalized head-related transfer function is, then I can put that into any application that requires audio. Gaming was a catalyst, and that's where that's where Embody. Our first focus was VR. VR was really pushing immersive audio and then the visuals, and so that's where the first challenge. Let's go tackle immersive audio for VR. You had Facebook coming out, right? Oculus was did a great job of advancing that, right? And then you end up having like Google Resonance comes out. And the thing that was, all these were generic HRTFs, again, all focused very much around gaming. So that's why that was a logical entry point for us. And what's exciting is our first product was, let's do something really, a baby step, which is let's work with headphone manufacturers like Audeze, right? And also then let's focus on what can we do for PC gaming, right? You've got an open platform. It's easy to get access to certain things. We can tap into, a surround sound bus sitting inside Windows 10. And once I've got a personalized HRTF, I do a convolution with 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound channels. And I give you an experience where it sounds much more like it would in real life because I'm using your ear. And so that's the applicability to gaming. And what that does for you in gaming is you are gonna, it's funny. The funniest stories I can think of about people's experience with our technology in gaming, very serious, first person shooter gamers, they'll game with it and you ask, what was the experience like? And I've had people tell me, I didn't know there were birds in the game. Or somebody was this one guy, he plays Diablo and he's really good Diablo player. And he's like, oh my gosh, that was so amazing when I stepped on that spider. And what happens is that sound designers for game companies have put a lot of very good work into making the sound experience, but you can't unlock it because you're going through. If you're doing anything in surround sound, you're doing a virtual surround sound experience, it's with a generic HRTF, which causes different artifacts that come into play, right? And then if you're just doing a stereo, there's a lot of stereos come a long way, right? A lot of great headsets. Audeze makes great headsets. Headset manufacturers make really good products for that, for directional accuracy, but it's not as accurate as having your own personalized HRTF in there. And so you start to hear people in places you didn't know they would be there. We give gamers about a few milliseconds to a second advantage in gaming. We've had people get kicked out of games because they were cheating. Like, how could you do that? You could. There's nothing impossible. And as well, all we're doing is we're letting you use your ears as nature intended you to use them. So that's the gaming aspect. And then well, what's exciting is gaming 5.1, 7.1, really great surround sound experience on a headset. Extrapolate that. So let's go to Pro Audio. And the interesting thing in Pro Audio is that what people really want, they want to have a really great acoustically treated studio. And they want to use that studio to be able to check their mix, right? Find problems in their mix, right? Reveal things that oh, I got to fix this, I got to fix that. Another great thing would be is if I had multiple studios to do that in, so I could have more confidence, gain more confidence that, hey, I've checked in a lot of different places and I've got more confidence that it's going to translate anywhere out there. Well, let's step back. And what's the problem statement there? It's, how do I put you into a studio? Now, you probably have one at home. You're a bedroom producer. You've got some monitors. You've done some acoustic treating maybe, but it's not a multi-million-dollar studio, right? It's not in a place where, BTS or take, Adele or some of these are, or Lady Gaga. It's not where they record, right? It's not where they're getting their mixes made. So you've got some limitations there. Well, if I can put you into that studio virtually, I unlock an amazing studio to millions and millions of people around the world. And how we do that is monitors, right? There are a few off, 45 degrees off center or 30 degrees off center, right? You've got Callies or Jelix or Focals, right? Or Asperger's, whatever it is. And you got all the acoustical treatment that comes to that room. A lot of people now have been able to model studios. Modeling studios is well known, how to do it. But what's missing, if you think about what that means, is modeling a room. If you're in there, you're a part of the room. You're part of the medium, because that sound is going to bounce when it comes off those monitors. It bounces off your body, right? It bounces off your head and your ears before it goes in the ear canal, right, into your auditory, part of your brain. And so if you don't put you in that model, you're missing. So because I've got a model of you from using our AI machine learning algorithms, I can put you in that room. And so now the problem statement is stereo on speakers, it's left, right. What we do is we unlock stereo on speakers. We make it a plane. And so now when you put those headsets on, you get the sense of real good sense without phasing, right? With pure, true directional accuracy that I'm in a studio, I know I'm in this room, and I can trust what I'm hearing. It is really what it'd be like if it was my ears inside that studio. And that's what's mind-boggling, what our data scientists and machine learning and acoustic engineers have been able to do.
Yeah. So that leads me to another question, actually, which is your process for measuring studios different from other companies that are simply taking, say, convolution, impulse responses? Like, what does it take for you guys, as much as you can say about this, to measure a studio? Is it a more in-depth process?
I mean, it's very accurate, that's for sure. And again, it's we are very precise in our measurements of the studios and the sound. And why we do that is that we can do more with it. again, because we have the ability to put the missing piece of that puzzle, which is you. Okay, so that's why we collect a lot of data. We've even we've even had situations where we're like, this studio has got actually some acoustical problems, and we're like, why don't we just model those out? We're like, no, we can't. We really want to, whatever studio we model, we want it to be the true sound of that studio. But I mentioned that because that's the level of detail where we're at, where we can correct for certain deficiencies in acoustic treatment. Because of the models that we create.
I noticed that as well. And I think I saw some pictures that Sankar, the CEO of Audeze, showed me. And your guys' modeling setup looked like it was much more intensive than some others that I've seen. It was quite thorough. I was very, very impressed. So it was very cool.
Good. Yeah. I think our, Akashik, our chief scientist, he's in Koppel, and then we've got Marielle, who's our VP of creative production. They're all very, I think the best compliment I've ever heard was from a mastering engineer. And she talked about how we have reverence for the studio and the people. And that was them going through the process and seeing how much our team pays attention to those details, because those studios were built as a very specific way. And those studios that we're putting into the plugin have a lot of history, and that history is from decisions that were made by the artists who created that studio, right? And those characteristics, and we have to retain that. And so that's, you bring me to another point that I want to mention is the very last step. So once we've modeled we've modeled the room, we combine those mathematically, but it's not just a mathematical combination. We work with the artist and we tune the entire signal chain all the way to the headset. And that process isn't finished until that artist says, this is my sound. That on these headsets, whether it be, especially, when we put on an Odyssey headset, it's done when the artist says, yes, I can put these headsets on and it sounds like my room.
Yeah. And that's a very special thing as well. There are a lot of plugins that have, big names on them that it was a sign off, and that's fine. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I was very impressed to hear the degree of detail that you guys went into with working with the people who have, who've built those studios, who know those studios, the degree of detail in your measurements and throughout the entire process. And then of course, compensating for the headphones and the studio and your HRTF. It's very complete and technically kind of just like mind-boggling process that you guys go through. I mean, it's like, it's kind of incredible how much you've simplified it too, right? Like I take a picture with my phone, I load up a plugin and I'm just good to go, right? I mean, I used to do some psychoacoustics research shortly after my college days. So I'm like, I don't know all the tiny nitty gritty, but I can appreciate how impressive what you guys have done, taking this massive, massive undertaking and shrinking it down to something that is digestible for your average engineer or gamer is incredibly impressive to me. So I thought that was very cool.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah, I think of like Shankar, and he's honestly the same way. I mean, that's the marriage, right? Where this solving this problem actually came from Shankar. He meets Kaushik, our chief scientist, at Gamescom. And he had been looking for this. He was looking for, he knew this as well. To do this, I have to have a solution that captures personalized HRTF. And he found it. And they met. And we work very closely with your team, because your team also has this very, high degree of excellence that you strive for and you achieve. And that's the marriage. That's why this works.
And
so
I know
well.
we're always really excited to work with you guys, and the technology is super cool. But you're totally right. It is a great marriage. I have another question, actually, going back a little bit to something you mentioned in the gaming, with relation to HRTFs. What do you see as the future of HRTF use in gaming? Obviously, the PlayStation has kind of got their whole Tempest engine thing going on. I think currently your products for gaming are primarily PC based at the moment. Okay. Do you have plans to expand, if you can talk about them, into consoles or into mobile gaming or other things like that?
I can talk I can talk a little bit about it, and the answer is yes. So we took that very first step of working with a headphone manufacturer and creating a client for PC gaming, and the next step is definitely in game. And we're working with customers in Europe, in the US, and in Japan, and gaming is going to go to a whole new level. Yeah, can't say anything with timing, but it's going to go.
That's cool. I'm excited about that. I needed to try out the gaming stuff too. I haven't tried it out yet, but I'm really intrigued by it. Can I ask, if you know the story, how did you guys come up with the idea of, and can you talk a little bit about the process of, like, when you take the picture of your ear, it goes to the Embody server where it's analyzed by, I think, an AI, is that correct? And then it builds an HRTF. The process is something like that. Can you maybe speak to that a little bit more knowledgeably than what I just described?
I mean, yeah, I'm not the best expert for that, but I can give you a general view of what's going on. Right. So, yeah, so you take your picture of your ear, you send it to the server. And what happens is, first is we've been able to, because we only take one picture, okay, and it's just your right ear. Right? And we've done a lot of analysis of the folds in the pinna and how that relates to an HRTF for 360-degree coverage, right? And so our engineers have been able to find the correlation between the very minute dimensions and cavities inside your ear and how that will affect an HRTF. Right? We've got machine database, right? We got a machine learning database, and that we predict. So sometimes some algorithms will take a nearest neighbor approach. They look at your ear and they say, okay, well, this ear looks similar to this other ear that was measured, and so I'll use that HRTF. And we actually do build it.
Wow. Okay.
We build your HRTF.
So everyone is unique.
Ear goes up, everyone, boom, algorithms start to work, and they're predicting. That's what it is. It's a prediction algorithm in simple terms. And we do that for 360 degrees. And what's amazing is it's done in the complete time from sending it to the server and getting it back is 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's crazy fast. I mean, the amount of processing power even 5 years ago you would not be able to do it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's the beauty of it. That's the, I remember when I first came into Embody, this is back when the company there were just, I think it was just 4 people in this office, in this as a shared office space, and I walk in and the whiteboard is filled with mathematical equations and formulas. And it's like, okay, these guys are intense. Very intense. And we do. We have some, I'm honored to work with we have some very smart people who are just passionate. They're musicians, they're gamers. I mean, they're gamers, they're musicians, and they want to their goal is just to make products that they want to use, in gaming, make products they want to use for creating music, and then let other people enjoy that.
Yeah. That's definitely, I've noticed like a lot of passion from everybody that I've talked to on the team. It's super cool. I mean, a lot of software companies are like, well, it does this, and they start kind of throwing out numbers and stuff that if you're not super technically savvy, you're kind of like, what does all this mean? But yeah, I've noticed that, and the way it's explained and implemented is I find the design approach that you guys have like very easy to interact with. The UI and the UX are all really good, which again is very unique to me. Most of the time, HRTF stuff is like all these numbers and complicated graphs and all these things, and it's like, take a picture of your ear, load your plugin or your piece of software, and boom, you're done. Which is, again, I'm still kind of like, it's so easy. It's amazing.
It's fun. I was talking to a candidate for a job position, and he's very steeped in software development, product management. And he's like, okay, so what are your bugs like?
Yeah.
what do you hear about customers? What are the issues you got to deal with? And I'm like, biggest issue is just making sure the sound sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it really is. I mean, that's a lot of work because the algorithms have been proven and they're very solid. And the biggest bulk of it is really just tuning that sound and get it right. Just get it right, get it right, get it right.
Interesting. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of like actual listening and hand tuning that goes into the process.
There is, and that's what, audio is very subjective, and that's the art that comes into play. And we've got really good, like I said, Marielle. We've got Karen, who came from DTS. He's one of our other engineers up in Vancouver, and he himself owns 3 studios. And so caution, he sings classic, he's opera. Okay. He's an opera singer, and Marielle herself she's a keyboardist, professional singer as well. And her and her partner put out a CD earlier last year, I think, and they did a little tour. And everybody is living their profession. We just don't show up and start programming. It's, oh, hey, I got a concert to go to. Anybody want to come check me out? And oh, by the way, I'm also developing some software.
That's very cool. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So I think that's most of my main questions. I think just to wrap up here, what do you see as kind of the core thing for Embody going into 2021? Is it more gaming oriented stuff? Is it more consumer oriented stuff? Obviously you've done some really cool stuff with Pro. Like what's coming up for you guys that you're really excited about? Again, that you're allowed to talk about.
I mean, you're going to see, we have a strong R&D focus, right? And so you're going to see developments in the HRTF itself, and continue to make it even better. We're going to continue to push that. You're going to see more on the business side. You're going to see more partnerships. You're going to see more headset partners coming on board. You are going to see developments in the gaming side coming out, and you potentially will see our technology going into some other areas outside of gaming and pro audio. And then in essence, why this is, it's easy for us, but it's also hard. And that is, audio is in so many places. This video call we're doing, right? Can that be improved, right? Like I said, I'm gaming on an iPhone or an Android phone, right? And there's a huge market for that, bigger than console, right? And that's an interesting challenge to go after and tackle, running these algorithms on a smartphone. The big one, right? Everybody's like, hey, COVID, we're looking for it to be going away, but still it's gonna be a long time of just virtual concerts. Right. And that's a big one. Wow, wouldn't it be great if we're going to have a spatial audio experience remote? Couldn't make it to the concert, or there's a concert in a certain part of the world that I can't make it to, and I just want to listen to it. Right. And so being able to enjoy that experience there. Right. We've modeled other things that you're going to see more studios. And I think that it's in our vision, right, where today we model the studios, but what would be exciting is if you have your own studio and you yourself could do the measurements and add that into the plugin. That'd be kind of exciting. I won't say this on the roadmap right away, but those are things that we think about. Where our technology can go, and just continuing to give the end user amazing immersive audio experience. That's what we want to do.
Yeah,
for everybody.
That sounds like you guys have some really cool stuff coming up. Side note, are you guys thinking about like hardware integration or potential applications in VR of the HRTF technology that you have? Okay.
Most definitely. Yeah, we purposely we just restricted ourselves, being a startup, gave a lot of focus and getting those products out the door there. Definitely in VR. We've got an interesting product that we've done with Steinberg, Immerse with BST Ambi decoder for Nuendo and Cubase. Okay. And that's on the content creation side. So being able to have more accurate, panning. All right. A lot of times you're panning with the generic HRTF, and you panned it to be like 45 degrees off center. It ends up being 90 degrees off center. Right. And so being able to give the content creators confidence in the audio that they're making, right? Getting rid of phasing, getting rid of those sort of artifacts that come with the generic HRTF. And then the next step will be for the content creator to actually be able to give that content to someone, be it a VR content or a 360-degree video or a game. And the end user can also have that same personalized spatial audio experience. So that's a path that we're making a lot of progress on right now.
That's very cool. That's very interesting. Well, I think that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience or share with them?
Yeah, I would just say we've got products for gaming, with our partners at Logitech, right, and Embody and audio-tecnica, and would love for people just to go and check that out. And of course, we love our partnership with Audeze in the pro audio space, right? And we just want people to keep downloading the plugin, give it a try, right? We've got the new Avid partnership, and we're excited about that, right? And then there's just a lot of ways right now to just download it for free, give it a try, and enjoy the experience. If you're making music or if you're a gamer.
Yeah. And for all of the viewers in the audience, I'll drop links to all the things that Ira mentioned in the description box. So check those out. It's very cool software. I think the Reveal Plus, I know for sure, has a 14-day trial. And I think the Immersive Virtual Studio also has a 2-week trial period as well, I believe. Definitely.
And there's some good, I think, NAMM's coming up. So be on the lookout for what's going to go on there. We're working on what that plan is going to be, but stay on the lookout, check the videos, be on the mailing list, and check out the new information that's going to come out about product. Yeah, absolutely. Releases.
Like I said, I'll drop links to all that, and I'll drop links to the Embody website as well in the description box so that you guys can check out their website. That I need to try out that Steinberg plugin that you guys had, because I looked at it a little bit and it looks very, very cool.
Love your feedback. Yeah, please do.
I do mix 360. I mix VR projects every once in a while, so I'll have to try it out. But I'm kind of a nerd. I love that stuff, and it just, your guys' tech is like so. Again, I've worked a little bit in psychoacoustics, just enough to know how hard what you guys do is. So it's just super cool and super easy for the end user. We don't have to think about any of the tech stuff. So, Ira, thank.
That's last thing. I'm sorry to keep going on, but that's another key part of what we do, right? Is that we're the creators, right? And we need the feedback from the artists who are making this content. So do check it out and reach out to us. We get a lot of good feedback, and from that feedback, we improve the product.
Yeah.
If there's something you want to see, let us know, and we'll be happy to listen and see how we can accommodate.
And again, I found everyone that I've talked to at Embody super excited, super passionate, really easy to work with. And I'm not just saying that to be nice. It's like legitimate. I work with a lot of different companies, and you guys I'm always like, I get to talk to the Embody guys today. They're so nice. I always love talking to them. I always learn stuff. So I always enjoy that. Ira, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come just talk to me and tell us all about Embody. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I look forward to working with you guys on more projects, and I just really appreciate your time.
Hey, no, thank you, Gerber. I enjoyed talking with you, and I look forward to doing more together.